Chapter 2 AI Chip. This? Leylin's eyes widened when he heard the mechanical voice in his mind. Isn't this the assistant AI chip from my previous life? How did it reincarnate with me? This doesn't make sense. He found it hard to believe. He thought to himself, AI chip, scan my mind and locate assistive systems. After a mere moment, the AI chip's mechanical voice replied, Beep! Scan complete! No foreign existences were found in host's mind. Scan my body and display its stats. This statement was met with another mechanical sound. Beep! Scan complete. Fang Ming, Leylin Farlier. Strength, 0.4. Agility, 0.5. Vitality, 0.4. Status, blood hemorrhaging at the back of the head, many injuries to the soft tissues. No AI chip present in host's body. A 3D hologram appeared before Leylin's eyes. It displayed Leylin's own body and showed stats on the side. No AI chip? The AI chip is equivalent to a material substance. How did it follow my soul through reincarnation? Leylin thought to himself. It seems like some abnormality occurred during the explosion, or my reincarnation, and the AI chip's functions have fused with my soul. If I was still in my previous world, this would be a major discovery. It not only confirms the existence of the soul, but also shows that physical matter and the soul can possibly transform each other. This is definitely something that group of old men in the National Academy of Sciences would go crazy over. It's a pity that I'll never see them again. This kind of AI chip was essential to scientists in his previous world. Because of issues with human rights and the conscious thought, this technology didn't have any intelligence of its own, instead serving two primary functions: data storage and analysis. It would analyze data on the command of its host, gathering data samples and running simulations to make deductions. Its storage ability was even simpler. It would store everything the host experienced through their five senses and recorded it down. Empirical data showed that it had enough wherewithal to store over 10,000 years' worth of events. Why did the AI chip and my soul fuse together? Bah, I'll ponder this kind of question later when I have the ability and qualifications to do so. At least with this AI chip, I have some resources in this world. The corners of Leylin's mouth suddenly lifted to form a brilliant smile. He knew that in this medieval period, possessing the result of futuristic technology would definitely open up some extraordinary roads for the future. Still, this Leylin's physique is really... Leylin grew speechless after seeing the stats in front of him. This stats displayed were based on each aspect of an adult's physiology as a standard. Theoretically, the average adult's displayed stats would all be around 1. Although this Leylin was only 13-14 years old, his stats were still too low. That's not right. It's possible that the bodies of the people in this world are generally weaker. AI chip, scan the bodies of the people around me and display their stats. Beep. Task established. Beginning collection of statistics. In almost an instant, 3D holograms of the surrounding people's bodies appeared in front of Leylin, displaying their stats. Name, unknown. Gender, male. Strength, 0.9. Agility, 1.1. Vitality, 0.8. Name, unknown. Gender, male. Strength, 1.2. Agility, 0.8. Vitality, 1.0. Name, unknown. Gender, female. Strength, 0.8. Agility, 1.2. Vitality, 0.7. Well then, it looks like the bodies of these people are stronger than those from my previous world. This Leylin is even inferior to a girl. I'm starting to feel embarrassed for him. Leylin scanned his surroundings. The people here were all youths around his age. There was a seemingly very delicate and frail girl whose stats were tons better than Leylin's, causing him to feel utter despair. It looks like this Leylin is a useless leech, an excessively lecherous piece of trash with no control. Name, unknown. Gender, male. Strength, 3.3. Agility, 2.5. Vitality, 3.2. Alert, alert. This life form is excessively dangerous. Recommendation, host should immediately move at least 1,000 meters away. A red warning flashed thrice in succession. This caused Leylin to fall into a state of shock. Average stats of 3.0! After Leylin scanned the information several times to double-check that the AI chip hadn't made a mistake, he was left completely speechless. Even the world champion didn't have these kinds of stats. This person could easily make people think they were Superman in my previous world. As a scientist, Leylin understood well that a stat of 3.2 meant the person's fighting capabilities, viral resistance, and body recovery speed were all 3 times greater than that of a normal person. The various stats displayed being 3-fold greater than a typical person's wasn't as simple as just adding numbers together. What kind of concept was this? It meant that this person could defeat dozens of people empty-handed and even get past a group attack by 100 people. In his previous world, he really could be considered a superhero. I'm afraid that a person with these kinds of stats could only be created by genetically modifying their biochemistry in a lab. Moreover, only the minimum would be reached. This world is indeed not a simple one. Leylin thought to himself as he looked at the person possessing these terrifying stats once again. It was a black-clothed person responsible for handing out food. He looked like he was middle-aged, and he had a scar on his face that stretched from his forehead to his lip. It pretty much split his entire face in half, and he looked extremely fierce for it. The freckled boy from before was completely frightened by this person. "This is the Academy's servant responsible for receiving us. It's said that he's not a Magus, yet he's already so frightening. What would a real Magus be like then?" Leylin suddenly discovered that a strong interest and curiosity about the profession of a Magus had arisen inside him. It was to the point where he was itching to go to the Academy now and investigate everything. The line was really short, and it was soon Leylin's turn. After the black-clothed, scarred man gave Leylin a piece of white bread and some juice, he wordlessly waved Leylin away with an impatient expression on his face. If it were the previous Leylin, even if he didn't dare to drag this guy out and lash him a few times because it wasn't his home, his expression still would have turned quite ugly, and he would probably have ranted at the man a bit. But the current Leylin was naturally not that stupid. Following his memories, he formally bowed and said, "Thank you, mister." The black-clothed man remained expressionless as he watched Leylin turn to leave. I didn't think that Leylin would really seem like a noble after bowing." The 2 youths behind Leylin couldn't help but secretly whisper to each other. "Hurry up and move forwards," the scarred man shouted, his voice exploding into the eardrums of the 2. The great sound scared one of the youths so badly that he fell down onto the ground. Leylin ignored the discussion behind him as he surveyed the area with a cold gaze. He then bitterly smiled. "Great! I'm really an unwelcome person." When he looked at George, George also hurriedly turned his head away. His hands made a secret gesture behind his back. Fine. Since you gave me the medicine, I won't expose you." Leylin sighed, then found a relatively remote place. Without caring about whether or not the ground was carpeted, he sat down and began to eat heartily. Leylin thought as he ate, "This plain white bread isn't as good as that from the previous world. But according to Leylin's memories, this is already considered a food that one can only get during celebrations." Based on Leylin's memories, this world wasn't very capable at food production. This white bread was an aristocrat's food. Normally, only minor nobles could enjoy such a thing, and even then only during celebrations of major holidays. To typical peasants, who only had hard, nutritionless black bread to eat, this was a supreme delicacy. When he thought of the black bread as hard as rocks from his memories, Leylin sighed. "It's a good thing that I'm quite fortunate. Regardless of whether I'm a noble or a Magus, I'm still in the upper levels of this world, so I won't need to suffer." He ravenously wolfed down the bread and downed the juice in one gulp as well. He then wiped his mouth in satisfaction and returned to the carriage. Based on the experiences in his memory, the noble youths would set up tents in camp and rest for the entire night before moving again. However, it was clear that nobody would invite Leylin to join them. He didn't have a tent himself, so he could only sleep on the cold and hard carriage. "When I looked just now, there seemed to be 50-some apprentices, 25 black robes, and 3 of the highest status white robes." When he thought of the scene just now, when he had been noticed from a distance, the hairs on Leylin's body rose. Added on to that were the AI chip's warnings of discovered an unknown radiation source and detected interference from unknown force field, Scan, impossible. This formed a shadow in Leylin's heart. It looks like even with the AI chip, I'm still extremely weak in this world. Very well then. If I'm weak, I can just obtain the power of magic. His eyes started to burn with resolve. It's best if I sleep earlier. I still need to hurry on with the journey tomorrow. Leylin took off his jacket and laid it on the ground to make his sleep more comfortable. It's already been over 3 months since this journey started. We've passed through a few dozen kingdoms, yet we still haven't reached our objective. These ancient transportation conditions are really... He closed his eyes and fell into a daze. After some time, the carriage door opened with a bang. Leylin suddenly sat up, his sense of smell being filled with the scent of a rose. It was sweet and aromatic, extremely pleasing to the nose. It also made his body throb and invoked memories. Leylin, are you well? A pleasant female voice said. Basida, please come in. Leylin moved his body. The fragrant scent in the carriage suddenly grew more powerful as a beautiful young girl entered. She had fair skin and wore red, tight-fitting clothes that accentuated her voluptuous curves. What was even harder for Leylin to forget was this girl's platinum hair and red eyes that were like crimson jewels. Combined with her beautiful face, she possessed an exotic charm. This was the very girl because of whom the previous Leylin had been beaten up to the point of losing his life, Basida. Is there anything you need of me? Although this girl had developed quite well and seemed extremely enticing to the old Leylin, Hmmm had come from a different world after all. He had experienced a plethora of beauties in his previous life, and this girl was only somewhat good-looking to him. His attitude was extremely cold and indifferent. It was clear that this manner somewhat shocked the young girl, as the words she was about to say didn't leave her mouth. After a long period of silence, she pulled out a small glass bottle and placed it in Leylin's hands. This is a medicine for injuries. If you apply it to your body, it'll help you. I'm sorry. The girl bowed, revealing the ample snow-white curves of her chest, causing Leylin's heart to race.